All right, everyone. Let's get started. Sorry for the delay there. Just waiting for a few more people to sign on. So thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about Gamewatchers safaris and the Porini Camps in Kenya. Looking at the list of attendees, I know quite a few of you are familiar with the product, and several have been, and recently too, so that's great. So Gamewatchers, there's two parts. Gamewatchers is the ground handling side of the company, and the Porini Camps are the camps that we own and operate. We've been operating in Kenya for over 20 years now, and we do operate a really wide range of safaris. We have some specialist safaris, luxury, adventure, family. We do accept kids at all of the Porini camps. We also book a really wide variety of family-friendly properties in Kenya and Tanzania. We were named Tour Operator of the Year in 2011 by the Kenya Travel Awards, and also one of the best outfitters on earth by Nat Geo back in 2009, so that's pretty exciting. We do have a full fleet of vehicles, guides on staff. We function like just a full-blown DMC on the ground. If you do want to book the Porini properties in a circuit, then that's fine. If you don't want to include any Porini properties, also not a problem. Overall, we do focus on the smaller safari camps with excellent guides and service. For the Porini camp specifically, the ecotourism principles are a really big deal. All of our camps, they are permanent tented camps. They're not taken down seasonally, but we've designed them. We don't have swimming pools. We don't have any permanent structures that would leave a mark if they were removed for longer than a month or two. So we're trying not to make a really significant footprint. We do have a full fleet of open-style safari vehicles for game drives, in addition to our fleet of vehicles in Nairobi for transfers and all of that. We have nice new minibuses. We have Mercedes. We have a variety of SUVs. So those are all options. The new safari vehicles, which we have, you'll see a picture of in a moment here. They're fully safari modified. They don't have any windows or walls, so we provide ponchos for rain. They also have plugs for charging because we don't have plugs in the Porini camp rooms, so that's really convenient. Coolers. They are captain's chairs with theater-style seating, so everybody gets a great vantage point, and we put 6 people in a vehicle, so even though there aren't windows, technically people are guaranteed a window seat. Also, going between the Porini camps, we do some driving. People can be driven from Nairobi to Amboseli, which usually takes just the morning, arriving at Porini Amboseli camp for lunch. However, during peak season, which would be December to March and July to October, we're offering a seat-in-plane scheduled charter flight, which lands at the Selenkay airstrip at Porini Amboseli camp. So that's great. That is a $140 flight one-way and $215 round trip, so it's really affordable. Outside of those months, we utilize the Amboseli National Park airstrip, so it's certainly possible to still fly in. It's about an hour game driving through the park and the Conservancy to get to the camp that time of the year then. So for the trade and for the travelers, our goal is to provide really quick turnaround on inquiries, personalized service, and we do have options such as providing cell phones on the ground for your clients if you have high-need clients or people who need to be in touch for certain reasons. We do constantly stay in touch with clients on the ground and make sure that everything's going well. Our managers at all the camps are very hands-on. And we just try to focus on the responsible tourism side of things, conservation, community involvement. Those are all really important cornerstones to what we do. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So Gamewatchers pioneered the Conservancy concept in Kenya. Jake Greaves Cook, who is the founder of Gamewatchers Safaris and is still really actively involved in the company, realized that in order to provide a sustainable form of tourism in Kenya that benefited the local communities, focused on wildlife conservation and the preservation of these areas that the Porini camps are in, we had to come up with a concept that worked to do all of those things. And maintaining the conservancies in the Mara, Amboseli, and Old Pejeta and Lake Hipia, we've really seen a huge improvement in how the communities are involved and also the wildlife in the area. The Amboseli Conservancy did not have elephant in it for about 20 years, and since the inception of the Conservancy, the elephant have come back. There's also a really significant leopard population in that area. In the Mara, we have lion researchers out there because the lion prides are just booming and doing really well under the Conservancy. So it's working. So there's three main cornerstones to this, the environment, community, and tourism, and we are working to get those three things really intertwined. So the goal is to stop the degradation of some of these ecosystems, of all the ecosystems that we work in, especially the Masai Mara was really, we were seeing a lot of decline in wildlife and a lot of encroachment of human population. So we're really working to build the biodiversity back up and allow the wildlife to recover. And along with that, 3 of the conservancies are Maasai-owned land, and what they've done is the Maasai have set aside certain areas of their property for wildlife conservation. And in doing that, they then directly benefit financially from that area of conservation. Along with that, they're involved, all of our guides, almost all of our guides are local. They're Maasai, they're highly trained. So they're benefiting from the tourism, they're benefiting from the wildlife conservation. And then also the travelers benefit because it creates a really phenomenal experience. People listening in who have been to the Porini camps can probably attest to the fact that you just don't see a lot of other people. The game viewing experience is really intimate, and this is basically the polar opposite of the minibus photos, gathered around a lion kill that you often see that Kenya's been so heavily criticized for. Just a few quick facts on the conservancies. A conservancy needs to be at least 7,000 acres of community-owned land that's been set aside exclusively for wildlife. We pay the communities based on each acre, not on the tourist. So when the camps are closed in April and May, the Maasai communities are still making that money. It's not a bed night, so it's a very reliable amount of money. It's basically a rent or a lease. We've also regulated the density, 1 tent per 700 acres, and the camps in the conservancies have to be under 12 tents or under. So they're really small, intimate camps. In a few places we do have rotational grazing of Maasai livestock. Olare Orok does that, and Porini Mara Camp and Old Kinyei. But the great thing is when the rotational grazing is allowed, usually is April and May when our camps are closed. So it's really rare that that tourists would see grazing animals in with the wildlife. And then, of course, the conservancy is managed by a warden, and the rangers are paid by the safari companies operating in the conservancy. We have really low numbers of poachers. Those guides and rangers and wardens take so much pride in that conservancy that we've just found a lot of wildlife that has been affected by snares and different hunting and poaching has come into the conservancies because they know it's really safe. Then moving into the product. Gamewatchers Safaris also operates an adventure camping trip, which was just named one of the top safaris best deal by Outside Magazine this year in their best of issue. So it was pretty exciting. I was there in November and saw the camping setup. Now this is definitely adventure camping. They are 10 by 10 Coleman tents. We moved away from cots because we found they weren't as comfortable as using the really thick 4-inch foam core mattresses on the floor of the tent. So it's very rustic, but at a rack rate of about $17.90, I believe, per person for 7 days. It is an exceptional deal, hard to beat. The safari operates in the Selenkay Conservancy in Amboseli, and also in Kinyei, which is in the Masai Mara ecosystem. And we do an air transfer in between the two to cut driving distances. The great thing about this is that travelers have access to all the same game viewing, vehicles, guiding. A lot of the meals are actually prepared at the Porini Camps and transferred over, as the Porini Camps themselves have. So the vehicles are the same open vehicles, same highly trained guides, bronze and silver rated. All of our guides are rated in the Kenyan guiding system. Each tent has a private bathroom with a flush toilet, wash basin, and a safari bucket shower. They're not actually attached, but it's right off the back, and it's private per tent. Just some images here. This is the camp down in Amboseli. When I was there, right at the entrance, that big tree you see in the back, a leopard had pulled an impala up in the tree. So there's a lot of wildlife right there. The camp, for security purposes, is built with a Maasai-style thatched kind of manyatta boma edge around it to keep the wildlife out. And of course, we have askaris on staff at night. So there's the tents. You can see the mattresses on the floor and the bathroom just off the back. It's really quite comfortable, and you can easily stand up in there. We provide drinking water and a lantern, and sleeping bags are available for rent. We find a lot of people bring their own if they're climbing Kilimanjaro. Otherwise, we can rent them easily. It's about $50. Just some scenes from camp. It's a very classic mobile-style camping safari. All meals are included. Drinks are not included, but we do have drinks available for purchase. The Porini Camps themselves do include alcohol, so that's a primary difference. And then moving on to the Porini Camps. There are 4 Porini Camps. They're all classic Hemingway-style tented camps. They're permanent, but they're closed for April and May, later half of April and into May. They are all in private conservancies. Amboseli, there's 2 in the Masai Mara ecosystem, and Pejeta up in Lake Kipia. So Porini Amboseli Camp is in the Selenkay Conservancy. That's the only property in that conservancy. Porini RHINO Camp is in Pejeta. We have our own conservancy within the greater Pejeta Conservancy. We're kind of on the far side of Pejeta, so we're away from a lot of the minibus traffic that you get from some of the larger lodges that are closer to the entrance of the park. And then Porini Mara is in Kinyei. That is the only camp in that conservancy of 17,000 acres, 6 tents. So the ratio between packs and acreage is amazing. When I was there in November, we saw the pride of 22 lions hunt and kill a warthog. That was pretty dramatic, and we were the only vehicle. So that's the kind of game viewing situation that your clients will experience in these properties. And then Porini Lion Camp is in Olare, Orok. There are some other camps there. For those of you who are familiar, we're located next to the Great Plains, Mara Plains Camp in that area. All of those camps in Olare, Orok are limited to the 12 tent size. Then, touched on this earlier, but we are really focusing on small-scale tourism. All of our guides are professionally trained. We have silver-level guides at all of the camps, along with bronze guides. We do have a couple guides that are studying to get their gold levels now. The wildlife viewing is exceptional. We have resident lion prides in the Mara at both conservancies, high leopard populations. Like I said, in Amboseli, Selenkay, the elephants have come back. Pretty exciting stuff going on. So there's an overview of the properties. You can see Amboseli. We're just outside of the park. Same thing in the Mara. We're just out. We'll have some more detailed maps coming up in a minute. Porini RHINO Camp up in Lake Hippia. What I do like to emphasize is if people have time to do the circuit, you could choose between the two camps in the Mara, and then of course include RHINO Camp and Amboseli Camp. I do really like going up to Lake Hippia because the landscape is very different, and then you also see the northern species, reticulated giraffes, Somali ostrich, of course the rhino population in Old Pejeta is quite high. So people ask if it is important to include that, and I absolutely agree. It feels really different. The landscape is different, the climate is different, and the wildlife is different, so it provides a really well-rounded experience. So let's head down to Amboseli and take a look at Porini Amboseli Camp. This is one of my favorite camps. It's tied with Porini Mara Camp, but I love this camp. It's our oldest camp. It's the original Conservancy that Gamewatchers founded. It's small with just 9 tents, and we are adjacent to Amboseli National Park. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour game driving to get into the park. All of our travelers do spend time in the Conservancy and in the national park. When they go in for the day. We don't do a box lunch. We do a full picnic lunch spread set up on tables with chairs. It's really nicely done. And of course, Amboseli is famous for its elephant herds and views of Kilimanjaro. You can't see Kilimanjaro exactly from the camp, but we have a lot of really great viewpoints throughout the Conservancy, and we do try to set up sundowners. And since we're outside the park, we can actually offer sundowners. Most of our sundowner spots, they'll set up a campfire, get snacks out, gin and tonics, wine, and usually have a view of Kilimanjaro at sunset, which is pretty spectacular. So here you can see on the map, if you look directly north of Amboseli National Park at about 12 o'clock, you see Selenkay Conservancy. The red arrows indicate, there we go, the red arrows indicate the dispersal zone during the rainy season. So the wildlife really spreads quite far. You can see if you look to the right at about 2 o'clock, you'll see where Odonyo was, Odonyo Lodges, and Chulu Hills. So the game really spreads that whole area. We had excellent game in Selenkay. The other great thing, in addition to the elephants and Kilimanjaro, of course, we have really great wildlife viewing. Same thing, we're using the open vehicles. This is one of the new open vehicles that has the theater-style captain's chairs, plug converters, the whole deal. It's a really, really comfortable vehicle. You can see that the sides do roll down if it gets rainy. It makes it a little hard to see out with the plastic windows, so we try to keep them up unless people are really getting drenched. The tents, something really important about the Porini camps. These tents are simple. They're very rustic. They have everything you need. They're really comfortable. This is not a luxury experience. This is an experience for people who want to be off the beaten path, where game viewing is their top priority, excellent guiding, and they just want to be comfortable, and they're happy with rustic accommodations. That said, the tents are massive. The configuration in all of our tents is a double bed, which is much closer to an American queen, and a single. So we don't have to worry about swapping bed configurations if they want twin accommodations. We do triples. All of the camps, we are able to bring in a additional single. Porini Mara camp is a little harder because those tents are slightly smaller. So for kids, we can do a quad easily. I would not recommend a quad for 4 adults, but for kids, it's fine. Traditional safari bucket shower with ample hot water. And then something that we've done is you can see the sink is actually a plumbed sink. It's just cold water, but it's really easy to wash your hands, and you don't have to worry about not having running water. We have a proper flush toilet as well. Some of the public areas which were recently refurbed, quite quite nice. Walking is great in this conservancy. The Maasai warriors take you out and go walking. This is also really, really family friendly. Perfect spot for kids. They love the interaction with the Maasai and the local Selenkay village. We are the only travelers who go into that village. They own the land that the camp is on. It's a very positive experience, really, really positive relationship we have with them. Completely non-commercial. Nothing is sold in the village. The women bead and it's sold in camp. No money changes hands between your travelers and the Maasai in the village visit, so it's very relaxed. And it's a very authentic village. It's one of my my top reasons that this is one of my favorite camps. Going on to Porini RHINO Camp up in Old Pejeta. This is our newest camp. It's also one of our smallest with just 6 tents. Like I said, it's located inside the Greater Conservancy on our own plot of land. Old Pejeta is the best place in East Africa to see rhino, both black rhino, and then southern white rhino, and in the sanctuary there are 4 northern white rhino, which were recently transplanted from, I believe, the Czech Republic, which excitingly back in May they actually 2 of them mated, so things are going well. There's also a chimpanzee sanctuary for people who have gone chimp trekking in places like Tanzania, Mahale or Gombe, or in Uganda. These chimps are not in the wild. It's a sanctuary, but for people who want to see chimps and understand the sanctuary model, it is interesting to see. So there's Lake Hippia up north, like I said, different landscape, different wildlife as well. And Porini RHINO Camp is just, it has a really nice intimate feel. It's very relaxed. It's beautiful. It's really, really nice, overlooking a water hole. And then Matthew, who's the manager up there, himself is a silver level guide, so he just is a great person to sit around the campfire. He'll tell stories, he'll talk about different wildlife and game viewing, so it's a really nice experience. This is a great place to do bush dinners. It's a little cooler. The altitude is higher, so we don't have a lot of mosquitoes. It's really beautiful. There's Mount Kenya in the background, which of course you do see from the Conservancy. Now heading down to the Masai Mara ecosystem, we have 2 properties just outside the Mara adjacent to it. Porini Mara Camp in Kinyei. This is also our other smallest camp with just 6 tents. This was the first private conservancy. So what this means is it is privately owned by Gamewatchers Safaris versus a community land. We've worked with the Maasai to create this conservancy and purchase the land. It's over 17,000 acres, and like I said earlier, the only people that are on it are Porini Mara Camp, and then the adventure camping I mentioned earlier utilizes this as well. So your clients literally have about 1,000 acres per person. We are adjacent to Naibosho Conservancy, and we have the rights to go game driving during the day and there. No one else has rights to come into Kinyei. We can do walking safaris and night drives as well. So the red is the actual Masai Mara Game Reserve, and the bright colors located to the northeast are the conservancies. So you see Kinyei, Naibosho, Olare, Orok. Mara North would be just slightly to the left there. So Porini Mara is, these are the slightly smaller tents. If you see what I was saying, this we cannot add an extra bed to, but they still have the double and single configuration. The river is immediately out in front of the camp where you see that bush. There's hippos calling at all points of the night and day. Private veranda. It's really, really beautiful. This is the public area which is being refurbed this year, so stay tuned there. But we, at such a small camp, we do a lot of family-style dining. It's just very casual atmosphere. It's really nice. We do a lot of al fresco meals. Down by the river there, you can see we try to have lunch out sitting under the sun. It's really, really lovely. This, I think, is the best place to go walking. The walking Maasai guides are exceptional. We were walking through herds of zebra and wildebeest. Something to note is This conservancy and the area to the north of the Mara is part of a greater migration that takes place separate from the Serengeti and Masai Mara migration. So there are a lot of resident species that come through, resident herds, as well as kind of a secondary migration that comes in November. So November and December is actually, in spite of the rains, is a great time to be there. It's a really great for game viewing. Fewer people, lots of animals are calving then, so there's a lot of babies around. This is a pretty common scene out walking, so that's a pretty special thing to go out with a Maasai, where you just don't see other people. Then Porini Lion Camp is in Olare, Orok, 22,000 acres, and it does border the Mara Game Reserve. So if you are interested in putting your clients in a camp, let's say July, August, September, early October, where they can then easily access the actual game reserve for the hope of seeing some river crossings, then Porini Lion Camp is great because literally it takes about 10 minutes to cross the river and you're in the game reserve. Both Porini Mara Camp and Porini Lion, we do take all travelers into the Masai Mara Game Reserve. Reserve fees and conservancy fees are built into all of our camps, so they won't feel like they're missing out. And really at the end of the day, most travelers, after they go into the game reserve and see a lot of vehicles and notice that vehicles aren't limited at sightings, they kind of just want to go back into the conservancy. But do take note for peak season of the migration in the Masai Mara. This is a good camp to use because it's easy access. 10 tents, and we have, gosh, I think 3 or 4 resident lion prides, as well as great cheetah and leopard populations, in addition to all the plains game as well. And because we can do night drives, go out for sundowners, go on a night drive, and have excellent opportunities to see the cats when they're really active in the evening. Then we come back and have drinks around the campfire and dinner. So it's a really nice kind of extension to the day, something you can't do for your clients when they're in the game reserve proper. So there you can see Olare, Orok, just adjacent to the game reserve, to the Masai Mara. This is the main lounge area at Porini Lion Camp, and the tents, they're really big, massive tents. Writing desk, the bathroom is down there at the end, same setup. They're all flush toilet, running cold tap water, bucket shower. In the morning they bring you hot water to wash your face. And all of our camps include coffee service, which I think is great. When I was in Botswana in May, I was kind of sad that most of the camps didn't do coffee service in the rooms because I was so used to that from Kenya. You see on the nightstand there we have 2 reading lamps that are run off of solar, and actually all the power is solar. And then there's a small basket you can see on the nightstand, which includes alarm siren, mosquito repellent, bottled water, just little things that people need in the rooms. The dining and lounge area, there's a really beautiful campfire down behind the back that we have drinks at before dinner. And then this is also a great spot for bush breakfast. Something I didn't mention is when clients are visiting several of the Porini camps, we try to split up experiences between the camps. So maybe they'll do a walk with the Maasai in Amboseli, up in Old Pejeta at RHINO camp, maybe they'll do a bush dinner. Out in the Mara, maybe they'll do a bush breakfast, and all of those are included. There aren't extra fees for that. Those are built in, and if they're just going to visit one of the Porini camps, we'll cram in as many of those opportunities, experiences as possible. Drinks, beer, red wine, white wine, and gin and tonics are included in the rate, so that's also a really nice thing. People aren't going to be paying out of pocket for anything other than tips, of course. Just some of the really great wildlife in the area. the cat populations are incredible. Like I said, we do have some lion and cat researchers in the area because the populations of the cat species have been doing so well in the conservancies that they're out studying kind of how that's working. Then last but not least, Nairobi Tented Camp. Gamewatchers Safaris is the exclusive reservation and booking agent for Nairobi Tented Camp. This is the first accommodation of any kind in Nairobi National Park. It's the only tented camp in the area, and this is really cool because we have access any time of the day to do a transfer directly from the airport. We cut through the park into the camp, so we don't have to route people in through town. There's 8 tents, and it's just really a nice option because you don't have to have your clients spend the night in a city hotel. They can arrive. A lot of American travelers have 8 or 10 days on the ground. They can start their safari the moment they arrive. Just last month we had clients transferring in from the airport to Nairobi Tented Camp and witnessed a lion kill en route. So their first evening, within 2 hours of landing, they had seen a kill. That's pretty exceptional, but it's not uncommon to have great game just driving through Nairobi National Park. So this is a really nice option if you wanted to do this on arrival, or if you wanted to do a night at the end of an itinerary, or sandwich an itinerary with this. If you do book 4 or 5 nights at a Porini camp, at any of the Porini camps, Nairobi Tented Camp is $100 off per person per night, so that's a pretty significant savings. 6 or more nights on a Porini camp circuit, and you can save your clients $150 per person per night at Nairobi Tented Camp. Flush toilets, running tap water, bucket showers. And just a great scene. This is pretty amazing. Nairobi National Park is really interesting because it is the only really successful game reserve that is so close to a city. And you can't see that here. When I went to university in Nairobi, I was at one of the migratory gates of the national park, and it's really amazing to see a setting like this, knowing that a huge metropolis is just adjacent to the park. And so I think, you know, providing your travelers with an experience like this is something really special. So we do have some time for questions. So let's go ahead, and you have the box there on your screen, and you can go ahead and type those in. Karen is asking, is $17.90 the rack? Yes, that is a rack. We do provide net rates to tour operators. I can send that through to you. You know, every once in a while tour operators say, well, you know, the margins on a trip that inexpensive are quite low. So what I recommend doing is take that $17.90 rack and add services in Nairobi. You could sandwich it with 2 nights at Nairobi Tented Camp, and, you know, pad your margins a bit to make that more profitable for you. The other thing that we also have found is really successful with that camping trip, for those of you who sell Kilimanjaro, we can do a pickup at the border, Tanzania at Namanga, and bring people in straight into Amboseli. It's a really great option for people who are climbing Kilimanjaro to then do this mobile camping safari. The other option you can do is you can end them. They will end at the Porini Conservancy, Kinyei. If you want to have them for a night or 2 at Porini Camp or Porini Lion Camp, you can add that in as well. So that's pretty flexible. 3 nights in Amboseli, 3 nights in Kinyei and the Masai Mara, with road transfers to and from and a flight in between. Any other questions? If you want to send those through by email, feel free to do that. Info at CuciniCollection.com. And then what we will do is Tad and I will archive this. We're working on getting our archives up on the website right now. If you'd like an emailed recorded copy of the presentation, please just go ahead and request that, and we'll send that through. I will also send to all of the attendees today the rates manual for 2013, which is our tour operator net rates. When you go through those, you'll see for the Porini Camps that they're packaged in 2-night stays with the option of an additional night. Those packages include all the Conservancy fees, national park fees where appropriate in the Masai Mara, and also in Amboseli, all activities and air transfers or road transfers between the two. So when you go ahead and view those, just take note that that's a package price. And we have one more question that we're trying to access. Sorry about that. The webinar's not cooperating here. Rack rate on the adventure camping is $17.90, and the Porini Camps range between 2-night packages range from about $9.65 at Porini Amboseli Camp, what I just mentioned inclusive, to up about $1,400 during peak season. So I'll send those out today for you, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with any questions. Also, in the email, I'll include a link to my recent trip report on there as well, which is quite comprehensive. And then for you folks who are listening in who sell areas other than Africa, our next webinar is going to be the Lac Jebig Falls in the Toledo district in southern Belize. That will be December 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Really great option for families. We have triple and quad rooms, living Maya experiences, also a lot of really ancient Maya history, and adventure activities. So stay tuned for that, and let us know if there's any questions. Thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll be in touch with you guys shortly.